But I feel like wherever we go, we take God with us, right?
Yeah.
That's the equalizer, man. That's the good news about, how many of you have read in the big book, we begin to develop a vital sixth sense.
Mm-hmm.
That vital sixth sense is the Spirit of God. That's the sixth sense. You often live before you got here off what you see, you taste, you smell, you touch. Well, this vital sixth sense is beyond all those five senses. It's something that lives inside of you. We agnostic says, in every single one of us, every man, woman, child, there's a fundamental idea of God. And what happens is, when we begin to take these 12 steps, we begin to straighten out spiritually, we begin to become awakened to the Spirit of God. And then in 10, 11, 12, we begin to learn how to broaden that experience. But I said something, I did something with the ladies earlier, and I said something I felt was powerful because we talked about relationships. And I talk about relationships a lot because how many people have been sober for a while, got in a relationship, got drunk, got high? And it's not because you got into a relationship. I want you to realize that it was not the relationship that got you drunk and high. Matter of fact, from the beginning of the Bible, it's clear that a relationship was meant to be good. God intended a relationship to do His will and to do His work. So it was not the relationship. Relationships from their very nature, just like a lot of other things from their very nature, are good. But often when you put it in the hands of a self-centered individual, it becomes our God. We take our focus off the one that's directing our life and we place it on somebody who's always going to fail us.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed when you put your dependence off God to a woman that don't really care about you, that your happiness, your day, and everything you do is dictated around what she does?
Yes.
Did you ever get in a relationship where you really liked her, but you didn't think she liked you, and your nasty self came out most of the time because you checking her phone because you're worried about where she's been, and she's really not been nowhere, you just checking her phone because you've been talking to some other girls?
Yeah. Amen.
Right?
Amen.
But because of your guilty conscience, she's the one that's the problem. So if the enemy can keep you thinking she's the problem, then you never have to look in the mirror and straighten up. That way, when the relationship ends, it was always her fault. To come to find out you were the problem.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah.
it's not the relationship, man. God doesn't bring you here out of the gutter. He didn't give you grace, bring you here out of the gutter, restore your life from the ground up because He don't want you to be in a relationship. Matter of fact, there was some great man that told me that God said that it wasn't good for man to be lonely. I heard a promise one time, and it said that it was not good for man to be lonely. That's why He took her from the rib. And He created her for you. So listen, man, I'm not against relationships, and I'm not against you guys finding a wife and spending the rest of your life. As a matter of fact, if you read the sexual inventory, it says that we are doing this for our future sex life. Not for more women that we can get laid with, but can I look at what I did wrong so that I can do better, so that I can become a good gift to be given?
Yes, sir.
Because I don't know about y'all, having sex is good, but when it becomes your God, it only is good when you're having it.
Yeah.
When sex is your God, when you put sex before God, it's only enjoyable when you're doing it. That's why when you're doing it, you're thinking about 2 or 3 other girls. That's why after you get done having sex, you leave, and then the next girl that walks by, you look at her.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to fulfill something only God can. And that's why it's a never-ending battle and a third shift job, trying to fulfill an instinct that's God-given, meant to be good, but yet because you can't give it to Him long enough, you keep warping it. Right?
Yeah.
See, it isn't the sex that's the problem. Many of you come out of a 5th step thinking sex is the problem, so your solution is don't have it. But then the minute you get yourself in a situation, see, that's why you come out of a 5th step with things you should not do, and then you on your own willpower try not to do it. That's why you come out of a 5th step heartbroken from this relationship, but all of a sudden you start feeling like it's okay just to text her. Because you come out of a fifth step, sex is the problem. So texting her ain't a big deal. Just like when you leave a place like this and you're not spiritually fit, drinking's the problem, right? Just as long as I'm not drinking so I can hang out with the same people. When you don't realize it ain't the sex and the drinking that's the issue, it's the thinking that leads up to it. That's why texting ain't a big deal. That's why going out on a date ain't a big deal. But the minute you get in a spot where you can't refuse and say no, you do it.
Yeah.
Because the whole time you avoiding what isn't the problem and you walking with the problem that centers in between your mind. It's never the act of sex that's the issue. It's the thinking that leads you back to it. Until the thinking changes, you always going to fall victim to having sex with whoever you want to, especially when you're unwhole inside and need something desperately to make you whole. Am I talking to anybody in here?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a bunch of men in here. I know I can identify and relate. But listen, man, this is our problem. This is the issue. And I said this to the women, man, but this preaches to me. In step 3, we make a decision to turn our will and life over to the care of God, right?
Yep.
We're making a decision to turn our will and our life. We're making the decision to turn our thinking and everything else over to God. We're looking for new direction, right?
Yep.
But we're not turning our will and life over in step 3, are we?
No.
We're making a what?
Decision.
Decision. We're making a beginning to do these things, right?
Right.
Me and Jacob was talking a couple weeks ago. In the 10th step, there's one promise that blows my mind. It says, and the problem will be removed. What is the problem?
A mental.
Because what happens? The book says in the resentment inventory that the spiritual malady, when it straightens up, we do what? When we overcome the spiritual malady, we what?
Straighten out physical.
So think about the problem. The problem's the spiritual malady. Selfishness and self-centeredness. It's removed. Now we're walking spiritually minded, not fleshly minded. See, when you get to 8, 9, you begin to feel that peace, that nearness of your Creator. Every one of you been there. You took the steps. Everything's good. Man, you are on top of the world. A high that no crack, no drugs can ever give you. The reason why you relapsed was because nothing had changed up until that point except for you did a little something to unclean your vessel and to waken up the spirit that's living in you. After that, you quit. Because this is what you do. You get this joy and this peace and you overcome the spiritual malady and all of a sudden, you're experiencing something you ain't felt in a long time. The problem is you haven't received new direction yet. You can't see inspiration from God when self is the central fact of your life. You have to overcome the spiritual malady before you can receive inspiration from God. So when you get to 10, you've just entered the world of the Spirit. No new direction has been given until you seek it through prayer and meditation. That's character. Do you know your character is built in between your ears? Character is here. This is your character. So if you're on step 10 and you felt the nearness of your Creator, until you apply what you did to get where you at through what you're about to go through, you ain't got no character. All you got is a great experience with 9 steps. Think about it. Out with the old, in with the new, we say it a lot. All we've done by the first 9 steps is identify the old. We ain't taken no action to walk in the new. Why do you think the 10th step says when these things crop up, we ask God to remove them? But when things are going good is when the enemy's going to get you. The minute you start to make some amends and get a little peace, the enemy's going to say, man, look how far you've come. Man, you don't need to go to a meeting. You fine. Go do your thing. Hey, listen, this is your life. Right? You ever been there? Things are good.
Yeah. Every time.
I've learned that the 10th step has one word. It says continue. It says about 2 or 3 times, continue. I've learned that word continue means to continue and persevere through the good times. Because everybody needs God when everything's bad. Everybody's asking God, help me. You seeking direction when things are bad. But when things are good, everything you did to get it good, you quit doing. It's really when you should be doing it the most. Step 10 and step 11 is intentional. Do you know what that means? I mean, how many times have you seen a girl over there and you intentionally made sure you walked by her? I mean, you've seen her from across the room and you didn't even have to go that way ever that day, but you made it intentional to walk by her. Your relationship with God is the same way. When you get up in the morning, if you don't intentionally open your book and grind, guess what? You're not going to get what God's got for you. You're going to sit around while the ones intentionally do it's going to get it. And guess what? When they get it, you're going to envy them. And you're going to call them haters. But you know what? It's just relapse hates recovery. The ones that you don't like are the ones intentionally getting on the grind because they don't want to die. But when they start getting better because you lazy and ain't, you start trying to tear them down with your mouth. When truthfully what they got, you could easily have if you just do what they got, do what they did to get what they got. Well, this is a hustle, son. Y'all hustle to get what you got. Dr. Bob says if we would just go half at what we did to get a drink and a drug to do this, imagine what could happen. Half at what we did. 1/2 the zeal as we did getting a drink, what we could do and accomplish in recovery. 1/2 the zeal. What your life could be like, man. Because I don't know about y'all, I love places like this, but I sure don't want to stay at one. Come on, man, let's be honest. You don't come to an institution to become institutionalized. You come to an institution to get put on your feet so that you can go out and become a part of society again. That's it. You think God in His mercy and grace in your destruction came and saved you so that you could go back to where He brought you from? Do you ever in your mind think a loving God who loved you despite you came and got you only in hopes that your plans was to go back? But how many times when you go back you say, God, where you at? God, where you at? When truthfully God pulled you out of a gutter you deserved to be in, put you in a place that you didn't deserve to be around people who loved you despite you, gave you everything you needed, but yet you refused to do what they said, went back to where you came from and you blamed them and God.
Wow.
Wow.
That's the enemy, Bo. He wants you dead, son. The enemy wants you dead. And the only way that he can kill you is through a lie. See, God has already disarmed the enemy. So the only way that he can hold you hostage is with an unloaded gun. And God's standing back over here saying, yo, that gun's unloaded. They ain't no bullets in it. And he got you held hostage by a lie. In the gutter thinking God had something to do with this. Even thinking the devil had something to do with it. And the whole time it was you. That's why if you ain't the problem, there ain't no solution. That's why the biggest thing I've learned in recovery is no matter what my situation is, I walk to the mirror and I say, God, where am I to blame? Because I don't care if 99% of the resentment is her cheating on me. Her taking my kids. Her not wanting nothing to do with me. Her sleeping with everybody else. But 1% is I can't forgive her. God, help me to forgive her. Because if I don't, I'm going to be drugged by what she did to me. If you look at the 1% of where you to blame, God will set you free. And what she did won't never matter. And guess what you'll end up being able to do after you forgive her? You can be God to her like somebody was to you. Because never mind, she cheated on you and done this and done that. But never mind the things you did. She don't know are the things you did before you met her. And all of a sudden, because what she did, she don't deserve the forgiveness that God gave you. You don't know freedom until you become forgiven for what you did. You turn around and forgive somebody that did it to you. Or you talking about freedom, son. You can walk around here and change. Ching! Hitting the floor, man. At the end of the day, I don't care if I got a car. I don't care if I got a wife, kids, a house. If I ain't got peace, I lose it all. 5 years of sobriety, I had a girlfriend. I had the best paying job I ever had. I had 2 cars. I was paying rent at 2 different houses. And in 5 years, I lost it all, and I had been sober. Lost it all. Self-will run riot. Even though I didn't think so. Right? Anybody ever been there? We ain't even got nowhere in this meeting. We just steady rolling. I'm just rolling. Whatever comes to my mind, I'm rolling. Because somebody's there. I can see heads moving. Somebody's like, dang, I've been praying about that for a month now. That's what God does. Did you know that God will always put the person in your life that you need to get from so that you can keep moving? Have you ever noticed that? God will never let you go without what you need to get through that day. You might not get what you want, but you ain't going to never lack what you need. Let me teach you a vital lesson. I know a little something. You might be older than me, but I got a little something under my trick. But how many times did God put the people in your life to give you what you need and you say, sir, I can't take that. But thank you. Knowing what he was trying to offer you is exactly what you need. But because of your pride, you couldn't take it. When you going to ever learn you ain't getting through this life alone? And until you start learning to receive, you're going to be left in a gutter somewhere. The most humbling experience is when you can offer and take what another man wants to give you because he was sent to give it to you because you couldn't do it on your own. It's called ruining the spirit of the giver. You know how good it makes you feel when you help somebody else?
Yeah.
What if they stopped you from doing what brings you joy? Just like you stopped what give them joy, want me to give you what God told them to. So God's always going to prick somebody's heart. He's going to send them in your life to give you what you need. But you know why you miss it? Because you think that boy that don't have the clothes that you have can't help you. Because you think the package your blessing comes in is in some type way you got it in your mind what you know it's going to be. And therefore when God sends that boy that's only been here 2 days to help you and you avoid him because he ain't nothing like you, that prayer that you've been wondering why God ain't answered, he sent it to that guy you avoiding. You know that new guy that you avoid because he ain't nothing like you or he's younger and he can't help you? I bet if you start spending time with him, every prayer you've ever had will be answered through that guy. Until you start learning that these guys, you about to be entertaining an angel and you didn't know it. I'm trying to tell you, bro.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you what you've been doing. Because somebody in here thinking, man, I've been praying to God. This is how you've been doing it. You've been on your knees, man. You've been saying, God, please. I don't know what it is. Somebody in here needs something. God, please, doing it. And he's been sending people in your life to give you what you need. But you saying, man, God's got this. When the whole time he's saying, yeah, I sent him to give it to you. But you trying to seek God vertically when normally we find him horizontally. He comes through a form of a brother, doesn't he? It's called God in a body. He comes in the flesh and he breaks people's heart for you. Just like his heart broke for you, he breaks other people's heart to send you what you need, bro. If you just receive it, bro. Y'all too busy running the meetings and writing 4 steps. If you just received the love of God, you'd have to quit. You'd quit writing a 4-step that's got the same thing on it for a year. I'm talking to somebody. Been writing the same 4-step with the same problem for a year, wonder why it ain't going away. Because you ain't willing to receive direction. You want the blessing God gives, but you want to keep the behavior you're doing. That's why you're running to meetings out of fear of getting high, because you're being disobedient to God.
Mm.
You can't have His blessings and live the life you're living. You either keep being disobedient and having to run to meetings and having to write 4 steps and running yourself ragged to find a little peace, or obey God and get to do those things. Well, y'all not hearing me in here tonight. I'm about to just leave this thing. Now, I'm talking to somebody. This program was never meant for you to have to do to stay sober. It was meant for you to start learning you get to do it. Because God's already got you sober, Bo. He grabbed you on the gutter and put you here, separated you from a chemical that you've never been able to walk away from.
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah.
Yet you busy thinking you taking steps to get sober. Dog, you already sober. Oh, you taking steps to start learning how to experience the God that went and grabbed you out of the gutter. Ain't nobody hearing me. You hear me?
I'm here.
I don't think you hear me. Well, that's good right there. Somebody needs to write that down. Hey, send it to me. Think about that, though. We too busy here trying to get sober when that ain't none of our business. God got me out of the gutter and He separated me from it. You might be here learning how to live in sobriety, but you ain't here trying to get sober because God did that for you.
All right.
But the moment you kept thinking you getting sober, you getting in the way of God setting you free. That's good stuff, ain't it?
Mm-hmm.
What if the reason God ain't moved on your behalf is because you're doing what only He can? Now, I'm not just picking on you, but you just seem to be a good vocal point for me. But just hear what I'm saying. Let's just dive into this. Hear what I'm saying for a second. Just please listen to this. How many times, based on half-truths, did you try to do what only God could? Meaning you were at a time in your life where you were desperate. Crack cocaine, heroin addiction, alcoholism had beat you to a state of reasonableness, and you cried out, God help me! And you wanted help. You wanted it. Matter of fact, He sent someone. Bill Wilson's experience in the cathedral said, I had needed and I wanted God, and I asked and He came. He said, soon the sense was blotted out by the worldly clamors, mainly those that were within him that he didn't know about. But think about, based on the information you had the day God met you, you took a next step on drinking being the problem. So what did you do? Try to stay sober. Didn't you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. God ripped you out of a place, separated you from the chemical, and based on the knowledge you had that drinking showed you, it was the problem. So your next step of staying sober was not drinking. And you were doing what only God could do. That's why you couldn't stay sober. But if you knew the problem was selfishness and self-centeredness, you could have focused your actions towards destructing it and allowing God to keep you sober.
Yeah.
That's why you don't need more faith. You need more truth. You got all the faith you need, but if you attach it to the truth God says, it'll set you free.
Amen.
Amen. How you attach it to the truth?
What, faith? That's a good question. You know, I was just like you when I was in a place like this. I asked questions. You know why? Because I realized I didn't want to die. You know what it prevented me from doing? Going around sharing things I heard in a meeting that sound good to make my ego get bigger, but the truth was they ever asked me what I was sharing, I had no idea. I was too willing to make you like me than I was to know the truth so it could set me free so I didn't have to worry about what you thought. Right? We steady walking around worried about what people think. If we just start asking questions and hearing the truth, I'd get set free and what you think wouldn't matter. So how do you connect the truth to the faith? the good news for you is you don't have to connect truth to faith. You just have to have truth and take the next step. Because if you have truth, then your next step is in the direction of faith. Think about it. I want to demonstrate it for you. How long have you been here?
A week today.
Well, good. I was saying, God, who am I going to help? And then he's like, man, just let me show you who he is. That's perfect to me, man. That's a good question. There ain't no dumb question. The only question that's dumb is the one you leave here today and don't ask because of your ego. Because you're worried about what the next man thinks about you so bad that you can't ask a question that might change your life forever. You lived in that prison your whole life. Are you going to worry about what the next man thinks about you? Or are you going to stand up and start taking advantage of what God's given you?
About to take advantage.
Right. See, this is the thing. You don't have to try to walk in faith when you got truth. What a man thinks, he does. When when you think right, you act right. Just like when I got here. Let's just do a demonstration. When I got here, I thought drinking was a problem. You probably still do. Man, this is good. If I was to ask you, and I want you to be honest, I know you've been here a week, and I know some of these guys have probably bombarded you with a bunch of this and a bunch of that. I don't want to hear none of that. I want you to be real with me. And I want you to tell me why you think you're sitting in that seat right there. I don't want to hear no makeup crap what these guys told you. Man to man, heart to heart, why do you think you're sitting there?
I mean, I don't want to be homeless. I don't want to eat out of trash cans, you know?
Sure you don't. But what's your problem? What made you put on the street eating out of a trash can and living without no home? What was the problem? What put you there?
Heroin.
Heroin. You used too much of it, didn't you? And every time you started to bang it, you thought you would only do $20 worth, and you banged it. Next thing you know, you're selling everything you got. You're stealing to get it. Or is that not your experience?
That's it.
So practically, you are here today because if you can learn how to not shoot dope, your life gets better. Right? Isn't that feasible? I'm on the streets because of heroin. I shoot dope and I can't stop. It's ruined my life.
Took everything.
Took in everything. Because of that one little feeling. So if you could just stop shooting dope, your life could get better.
About to just stop 100 times.
How long you been here?
Dude.
Well, I couldn't be in no better place, man. I want y'all to know, dog, I couldn't be in no better place right now. Because one day you're going to be up here and you're going to be yelling at some dudes because what you got living in you, all you want to do is live for them to know it. That's all I ever breathe, sleep, talk, taste. My wife says, Bo, you talk about God too much. I said, well, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But when you become possessed by the God of this universe in what hurts people, you realize what it is, you'll hate it. When you finally realize what hurts people, you hate it. Love has hate in it. You can't love people without hating what's hurting them. So back to your question. How do you attach truth to faith? Your truth right now, the truth that you got is heroin is bad. So I need to stop doing it. But the truth is that truth ain't tied to faith. That truth is tied to self. Because if you have to stop, then it's based on your ability to do it. How long have you known that heroin is bad for you?
I really never felt heroin was bad for me. It's the shit I do when I'm on heroin. You know,
Okay,
heroin's
well, that's a good...
heroin's the only thing that's probably kept me from putting a gun in my mouth.
Sure it is. It's the reason why you wasn't a teenage suicide. Heroin may not have been bad for you. but it's the things you did while you were doing it, right? Okay, but this is the thing. You can't stop doing what you were doing until you remove heroin. So what you're telling me is you wouldn't do what you were doing if you wasn't shooting heroin. So the problem is heroin, is what you're telling me.
I hope I wouldn't do the things I do when I'm on heroin.
Well, we got to find out.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So your truth is, if you eliminate heroin, you got nothing but sky's the limit. That's what I've gathered. The truth that you've come up with, you've been here a week, you've gathered all you can gather. Heroin wasn't bad because you liked the effect, but everything you did while you were doing it and when you needed it was bad. So in order to not do those things, you got to eliminate heroin.
That's right.
Right?
Right.
But I have eliminated it, and I've seeked it not wanting to the whole time.
But you want it right now.
Yeah, I want it.
Amen.
You feel like one person in a crowd of 20.
I want it every day I wake up.
Sure you do.
That's all, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, you do. You do too. You walk around telling people you're grateful to be here, but you want to get high. But you ain't never going to overcome high until you get real. Because you ain't fooling nobody in here.
Right.
Why is it we come to a place like this and we smile, man, how you doing in my head? I'm thinking this monk, I'll kill him. Oh, have you ever want you to tell him that? Oh, you're getting on my nerves. Because you've been manufactured to think that you can't do that. So you conform to who you want them to see. It's called a stage character. To him, you're one thing, but when you don't get your way, the next thing you're flipping off the handle. You can be nice, considerate if you need him to do something modest and self-sacrificing. And as long as he's doing it, you're good. But the first time he does something you don't want to do, and watch on the other hand, you mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. Like everybody else in here, we're all probably got varied traits. So as long as he does what you want him to do, you may do good. But the minute he don't, it's a great excuse to shoot dope. You're just itching for a great excuse to leave so you'll feel better about the life you live in. I don't know about y'all, that was me. But I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying that's what I did. Walked around like everything was good. I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to be sober. I was lying to you, bud. I was just like you.
I am grateful to be sober.
How long you been here?
Almost 3 weeks, I guess.
Well, you got a good reason to be grateful. You know? But transitioning from 2 days to a week to 3 weeks, that's a big length. There's a lot that can happen in 3 weeks, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm not saying you ain't grateful to be here. I'm just saying stop telling these people what you want them to hear and get real with somebody, because you ain't never been real to nobody in your life. And I ain't talking just to you, home. There's a lot of phony people right here. Because they saying things they want people to hear, yet they dying, they crying themselves to sleep at night. Because they scared to death. But yet we had a drug rehabilitation in Greenwood, and we got